Hey there. I love Magic the Gathering. I love thinking about Magic the Gathering. I love talking about Magic the Gathering. And I love arguing about Magic the Gathering. But almost as much as arguing about Magic the Gathering, I love playing Magic the Gathering. So, I've devised a plan to play as much Magic the Gathering as I can in the confines of a single 4-round weekly event. It's a deck I call Fuumoko Mornings, a name on which I will not elaborate, but which ranks second among decks I've built for likelihood to draw a match in Game 1. The deck generates value with Soul Sisters, which are not only great at stemming early aggression, but serve as really important power pieces when combined with cards like Ajani's Pridemate and all of the strictly better Ajani's Pridemates that WotC have printed over the last year. But the deck's defining feature isn't the Cuddlecat Crunchwrap Supreme, but this demon-ass creature in the sideboard, Lurrus of the Dream Den. The only card to be banned in Vintage on power level, besides Mind Twist in 96 and Channel in 95, this soulless frickin' thing is a source of near infinite card advantage and a softlock piece in our shell. See, all I need to do to have Lurrus every single game is make sure that all of my permanents are cheap. Sure, I do lose some power level from some cards like PJ, the Gaffer, and the Bridge Club, but my key pieces all fit within Lurrus's restriction. In exchange, I get a near endless supply of chump blockers, card draw, and a little something I like to call the Demoralizer. With a deck that's almost entirely white cards, Martyr of Sands and Little Brother Kami of False Hope let me lock my opponent out of killing me unless they can deal with Lurrus or go infinite. I also have the backup of Proclamation of Rebirth, which is almost impossible to interact with. This gives me as much time as I need to wind up my beaters into game-ending threats. Now, Jonah, I hear you ask. That's right, I can hear you. And see you. Don't bother calling for help. It won't arrive in time. Jonah, you ask, doesn't that make Lurrus a huge removal magnet? Well, yeah, any opponent with a functioning brain will remove him as soon as possible. That's why I've dedicated 4 slots in the main deck to just protecting him, 2 of which are reusable and 2 of which I can rebuy with Lurrus himself, as well as Slamwise, Shepherd, and Caracas to recur him. There's also an emergency button in Swift Reconfiguration, which is usually a removal spell, but can also protect him from creature-based removal and Wraths like Massacre. Another thing I hear you ask, can you just listen to the video? Stop being so needy. You ask, Jonah, you get so much value from creatures entering. Why don't you have more token makers? Basically, card advantage is more important. Not only does it let me sustain a low land count, along with the fact that all my cards are so cheap, which in turn lets me fill my deck with a whole bunch of creatures, which is pretty important, it also stops me from gassing out in a long game, which... I'm playing Soul Sisters, we're going for a long game. Consider the game where I keep 3 lands, a Soul Warden, Lingering Souls, and Ajani's Pridemate. If my opponent can deal with the Pridemate, sure, I get some tokens and I get some life, but it's still not going to take long for an Angry Murktide to break my head in. On the other hand, cards like Assemble the Players become must-answer threats in grindy matchups from the value that they can accumulate over time, especially in matchups like Grixis, which don't get access to a lot of enchantment removal. As for how it went, honestly better than I expected. Round 1 was the most telling since I got my ass beat, even though I was expecting to be favoured against midrange. Game 1, I played against Comet for the first time, and my opponent hit double 6s on back-to-back turns, absolutely hammering me out of the game. I put up a better fight in Game 2 with Sanctifier on Vec, but with my opponent picking apart my synergy pieces with their removal, it wasn't long before Ajani and Bomba were able to dome me out. Round 2 was a matchup of misery. The Birdie Boogie is basically guaranteed given enough time, and with their mana advantage, it's really easy for them to get ahead of me on curve. I only even had a chance in games 2 and 3 because I had Caracas in my opener. Round 3 was the big turnaround. In retrospect, my game 1 keep was way too slow. You'd think it'd be hard to have slow starts when all my permanents cost 2 or less mana, but failure finds a way. Game 2 was the Sanctifier on Vec show. My opponent just had a bunch of stuff that couldn't get any value because there was nothing in their graveyard. And Game 3, I had my best play of the night. I flashed in Slamwise with 2 Soul Sisters in play, gaining 2 life and putting 2 counters on Voice of the Blessed, enough to give it flying and enough power toughness to block and kill the Warring Triad and close out the game in the air. Round 4 was the finisher. I had strong starts in both games, but my opponent's sheer density of interaction, along with massive damage like Pyrogoyf into Tarmogoyf in game 2 to dome me for 10, was just too much for my little incremental pieces to overcome. I fought hard for Lurrus, but I just didn't have enough protection effects to keep shields up 24/7, and he kept going down. I had some great discussions about the format last night. You might have noticed I play against midrange a lot, and that's for a very good reason. My reference point for the format is Old Modern, back when Jund was the best deck, since it had a slightly favoured matchup with pretty much any opponent. We called it the Universal 60-40. You could beat it by being degenerate, trying to take them down before they were able to overwhelm you with their density of card advantage and interaction. That's not what midrange looks like in 7-point. See, in 7-point, Grixis is the format police, and it really punishes you for playing bad cards. If your pieces rely on each other to be good, they will take one away and leave only sadness in its wake. Then they'll just outmatch your threats on the board and kill you. So if you want to have a chance against Grixis, you just need to play good cards. Shocking, I know. I had thought that I could beat Grixis by using replaceable parts and card advantage engines, and while that's sort of true, the reality is that my pieces were still very codependent. I was playing a Ajani's Pridemate in a format where Black Lotus is legal. Don't get me wrong, it was a lot of fun. It just wasn't good. It was nice to have a week off, but for the purpose of learning, next week I'm going to stick to the fundamentals. Play good cards, try to use them well, hopefully get a few more wins. Until I see you then, good luck, have fun, and may the best wizard win.